Welcome to Resilience Matters, the podcast dedicated to understanding trauma and building resilience. I'm Dr. Shaylin Soma, Chief Clinical Officer at Star Commonwealth. In this new podcast, join us as we explore the stories, science, and strategies that heal. You'll hear from leading experts in trauma and resilience who are making a difference in children and families' lives every day. Whether you're a teacher, clinician, counselor, or someone on your own healing journey, Resilience Matters is an exciting and engaging resource for hope, healing, and growth. In our second episode, I had the pleasure of talking to Erika Grevelding, a school social worker, and Colleen Germann, a school psychologist, about their connection to STAR and how they developed the Courageous Choices program. Courageous Choices is a 10-week program that focuses on self-awareness and self-regulation. We discuss the program's adaptability across different settings, its alignment with the Circle of Courage's 4 universal needs, belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity, and how the program helps children develop self-awareness, emotional vocabulary, and regulation. Hey, Erika and Colleen, it's so good to see you. I am so excited to have you on our Resilience Matters podcast. To get started, I would love for you both just to introduce yourselves and remind us about how you got connected to STAR.
Hi, good morning. We're so happy to be here. My name is Colleen Germann. I am a school psychologist and a licensed psychologist in New York State. I have been practicing for 14 years now and have been working with Erika for all of those 14 years. And so it was actually through Erika and some of her social workers in our district that we ended up getting connected to STAR.
So I'm Erika Grevelding. I'm a school social worker at an elementary school working with Colleen. Prior to my work in a school, I did work at a nonprofit agency doing a lot more individual and group and family counseling, along with some home-based work and some school prevention programs. And then I switched over to the school setting, and I've been working with Colleen in that setting. But yes, many years ago, we had the opportunity to connect with STAR, and we did a 5-day trauma training, which was just absolutely wonderful to be able to go through that. We also were able to go through the trainer training. And then in addition to that, we've done a lot of consultation with several different people from STAR who've really worked with us on school-wide procedures, classroom procedures, even individual challenges that we were having. So we have really worked closely with STAR over the past many years, and it's been absolutely wonderful for us.
Well, it has been a pleasure to get to know you and to just hear about what you're doing in your district. I think what is so interesting and what I would love to share is how you really decided to take what you learned from the trauma and resilience training and create a program of your own to utilize.
So I had been doing individual and group counseling already at that point. And I think we had a lot of these strategies in place, but I think what changed was our approach. We really have been able to change to a more trauma-informed approach. So students are not using skills out of compliance or following rules out of compliance, but they're doing it more to help them feel the best they can. And they are more motivated to use it. We have a better understanding of students and their behavior. They have a better understanding of themselves and behavior. So I think a lot of it was more of just our approach that has kind of changed over the years.
I think one of the other things that changed, as Erika was saying, as we headed towards developing our own program, was that we had been using bits and pieces of different programs over the years and taking this part from one and another part from another and just not exactly finding the perfect fit for our kids and our community. And so following trainings with STAR and really kind of diving deep into the Circle of Courage and the 4 basic needs and really that resonating with us and our teachers and our staff and our kids, really wanting to kind of build a program from there that really incorporated all of those elements in it while teaching self-awareness and coping skills and kind of putting all of that together was, part of, why we decided to kind of branch out a little bit and kind of create our own thing.
It sounds like you needed almost like a through line, right? Because you were pulling, and that's what we do as clinicians. We have, we learn so many things and we have so many tools and resources at our fingertips, which is great to be able to pull all of those things out of our toolbox, but then to learn how to tie them all together or align them into one program, it must have been like, oh gosh, we can pull from all the things we're already utilizing. And then that circle of courage almost became, like your through line.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then to be able to incorporate not only the teaching for the students through the PowerPoints and the information that is directly taught with students, but then we found it necessary to have the staff communication where we are branching out and sharing information with different people that might be working with these students, some home communication pieces. It just kind of blossomed from there. So from the initial kind of kernel of, okay, well, let's have some lessons that teach kids, it kind of grew from there to incorporate all of those different pieces.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. What do people need to know about the Courageous Choices program? Like, let's just take it from the top. Tell people what it is and what it includes.
Sure. So we've actually written tons of lessons over the years. What is unique about this program is we really pulled back and just focused on more of that self-awareness and self-regulation piece.
Okay.
And we're realizing that is really the core piece that our students need to be able to access social skills, or to be able to access problem-solving skills, or to be able to access academics in the classroom. So it's really starting with that self-awareness and self-regulation. So this is a 10-lesson program where we're really focusing on gaining that self-awareness, self-regulation skills, and resiliency skills to be used anywhere at any time.
Wow. So really highlighting the importance of self-awareness and social and emotional skills as really the foundation for being ready to learn and being able to interact with others in the classroom and feeling like you can manage yourself, regulate your emotions and your behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as Erika said, the first couple of lessons really focus on that self-awareness piece. That was one of the pieces that we were finding were missing from a lot of programs that were already out there, was teaching kids how to understand what's happening in their own bodies physically, and then working on, identifying emotions, and then working on different strategies, coping skills that can be used. But that first key piece is really understanding what is happening in my own body and my mind to then be able to know what to do from there.
The Courageous Choices program is 10 sessions. And you have it broken down by age group, right? So there's not just 10 sessions for everybody. It's 10 sessions specifically for each grade level. And where does it start, and how old are we going up to with this program?
There's some common strategies across all of them. So there's 8 common strategies, but at each grade level, they're learning an individualized strategy. So it's changing it up each year, making it a little bit different, trying your breathing strategy in a different format or counting strategy in a different format. And then we also added a early childhood.
It's fantastic.
Yes. So that one is completely separate, still using a lot of the core strategies that we use in the K-5, but it's obviously done a little differently for those younger students.
Okay. So let me get this right. If you have access to the Courageous Choices program, and let's say you are a second grade teacher, you can go into that program and say, okay, let me take a peek at what the lessons are for second graders and follow through that. But if you have second graders that are maybe emotionally or developmentally more aligned with maybe what a kindergartner would be, you would also be able to access and adapt from those other lessons as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So you can kind of tailor it. I mean, it's specific for grade level and early childhood, but you can also pull from the different lessons if you need to.
Yes.
Just because we know that there's so many kids right now in the school setting, especially in elementary school. What I'm hearing is that we do have a lot of kindergarteners, first graders, second graders who, because of the pandemic and because of what's happened over the course of the last several years, are entering school developmentally much younger than what we would really expect based upon, let's say, their chronological age or their grade in school.
Absolutely. And to use your example, if you are a second grade teacher pulling out the second grade materials within the guidebook and within the actual lessons themselves, there are lots of different ideas to adapt the language or different options for different follow-up activities. But to your point, Shay, you can also, pull out kindergarten if that seems more appropriate for
Okay.
your kids at wherever their level is. Or likewise, if you are teaching a group of kids who have, had the curriculum for a couple of years, there's also ways to adapt it, to a little bit of a higher level. So it really is very adaptable in that way. By design, we
Sure.
designed the PowerPoints and the worksheets and all of the pieces to be editable and customizable so that teachers
Oh,
or
okay.
whoever is picking up the program can get in there and add their own, school rules or classroom, name, and, you can really edit everything to be, customized to your group.
So I love that it's so structured, but at the same time, you're not stuck, right? I mean, it's structured and the framework is there for you. And then you can tailor it to fit your needs if that's what you need to do, which I think that's great. I have so many questions. So let's go back a little bit. So this is a social and emotional learning program, but it's based upon the Circle of Courage. I don't know if everybody listening knows about the Circle of Courage, right? I mean, maybe a lot of people do. Maybe some people are thinking, what in the heck are they talking about? So, what we know is that the Circle of Courage is the model of resilience that we have infused into all of our training and certification courses. And the focus on resilience is, such a big part of being trauma informed. So as you learned about that Circle of Courage and the 4 universal needs that we really believe everybody has to be emotionally well, belonging and mastery and that sense of independence and then generosity, can you kind of just go back and talk about how you've connected them to those rules that you've included in the Courageous Choices program?
Sure. So we really looked at, and this was when we were working closely with STAR, we were looking at our school rules and really
Oh.
asking ourselves, why do we have those school rules? What is the purpose? What is the meaning?
Mhm.
So we really looked at it from that lens. And so one of our school rules, for example, is being safe. And so that's probably very common across many schools. We want everyone to be safe. But we were really looking at how do we align this with the Circle of Courage? So we aligned each of our school rules with one of the areas on the Circle of Courage. So we really did start off with that need for belonging. And so how do we help everyone have that sense of belonging? We really want everyone who comes to school to feel comfortable being in school. We want this classroom community, the school community, and the connection to each other. And so we really aligned that with being safe. So when we are being safe in our classrooms, when we're being safe with our body, when everyone feels safe physically and emotionally, we're going to naturally have that sense of belonging. And so that will just naturally develop if we're all following that school rule of being safe. And then as you move on, we're looking at that need for mastery. We want all of our kids to develop that need for mastery and to help them learn and help them conquer difficulties. And so we're really at that point looking at being responsible. So part of being responsible is doing your work. It doesn't mean we have to get the work right. Doesn't mean we have to get good grades, but we have to try. So
Work to
trying
your
our best.
potential. Yes, yes.
Yes. So really, that's how we aligned when we're being responsible and we are doing our work in school, trying our best in school, participating in those activities, then we're going to meet that need for mastery. Moving on to independence, how are we helping kids meet that need for independence? We link that with being respectful. And so being respectful is using those kind words and those kind actions. And really we ask kids, who's deciding what words you're going to use? They are. So that's that independence. They're choosing their words, they're choosing their actions. So they're making those choices, which is helping them develop that sense of independence and
Well,
develop that need.
yeah, and independence is so tied to feeling like you can regulate yourself, your body, what you say, what you do, right? So the self-awareness and that universal need of independence, I think is very significant.
And then we initially only had 3 school rules. And then through our consultation with STAR, we ended up adding a 4th rule. And our 4th rule is to be helpful. And That one, we're looking a little bit more at really noticing what's going on around us, listening to what are the needs of other people around us, noticing others, and we're always talking to kids about we're always making an impact. We're either helping or we're hurting, but we're always impacting in some way. And so being helpful is really listening to the needs around us. Sometimes it is listening to what your teacher might be asking you to do, or listening to what another student might be requesting of you. So listening to what's going on around you and being helpful. And so when we are being helpful, that's meeting that need for generosity. So it really aligned very easily for us once we really were able to sit down and look at the 4 needs of the Circle of Courage and align them to our rules.
Well, and I love that you're thinking about what is the purpose of this rule? Why do we have this rule, right? There has to be a reason, and kids need to know what those reasons are for them to even be relevant. And then connecting those to the universal needs of all of us is just, it makes so much sense. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so what if you have house rules? Or what if you have rules at a day camp or rules in an early childhood center, right? This doesn't really have to be specific to school. It could be, you could apply, be safe, be responsible, right? You can apply that across settings.
Absolutely. And that's, again, a part of why, we wanted to make everything editable. We understand that not every setting is going to have the same school rules that we had in our setting.
Sure.
And so to really, have whoever is implementing the program take some time in the beginning, which is outlined in our materials, to really take time and think through, what are the rules in your setting? For example, you said a day camp or some other setting. What are they, and how to connect them to the Circle of Courage? And with a little bit of thought, and didn't really take that much to be able to connect to the 4 basic needs, because again, that really is the purpose of most rules, is to, foster that sense of community and helping people feel safe and getting to where they need to be in that particular setting. So again, we tried to make it as adaptable as possible in that way. You just need to take a little time on the front end to think through how those pieces connect.
Wow. Yeah, and it's just what the program sounds like it does is it provides the support that children need to learn how to implement, ultimately, those rules, not just for themselves, but for everybody else. And it's the farthest thing from punitive, right? I mean, it's just so restorative and supportive, and it is really building a great sense of climate and culture wherever you are, in a house, at a early childhood center, in a classroom. I mean, this is the root of it.
And throughout the program, one thing that we've really emphasized is that us as adults, we are also following these 4 rules. These aren't rules for a school or for your certain program, but these are really rules for life. And when we're following these rules, we're meeting our needs and we're helping us no matter where we are in life.
Yeah.
So really modeling that, us being responsible and us meeting our need for mastery by getting our work done. So really a lot of adults using that language, modeling those skills and making those connections. So it's not just what kids have to do, but it's helping all of us be the best that we can be.
And so much of the language in the, the instructor information is, if you are in a classroom that has multiple adults, or if you're in, some other setting that has multiple adults, all of these strategies are for the adults as well. Again, as Erika said, not only are we, following the rules and meeting our own needs, but we are, really modeling utilizing coping skills and talking through, if I'm frustrated because the computer didn't work today, what's a strategy I could use? Or I'm going to take a 1-minute break to just get myself back under control. I'm feeling, frustrated, and just really working on modeling those things throughout the day, and that integration piece, because, as we all know, you can teach a student something, or you can teach somebody something in a 30-minute lesson, but it's really that follow-up and the integration throughout the day and the week and the year, and going back and revisiting, that really makes that impact and makes that difference. So if we can continuously model those skills and bring it back to those 4 needs to help us, be the best that we can be, and using language like that, that's where we're finding the impact grows significantly.
Okay. So I definitely want to get into talking about specifics of the program, but there's 2 things that I need to make a note, because I don't want to forget, because I think these are important things that I want to ask you before we move into that. The one thing is, how do we integrate this program, or how can professionals integrate this program into the responsibilities that they already have? So let's say, there's an educator who wants to integrate some social and emotional learning. They don't have a social worker that can do that for them. They are becoming the person who's implementing this. I mean, is it something that people can integrate into their day and kind of into their overall plan with kids? Because it sounds like it's so obviously so important, and it lends itself to kids being primed and ready to learn. But how is this then integrated? Is it time consuming? Is it user friendly? What if you're not a social worker or a counselor?
That's a great question. And that was one of our struggles at the beginning. We have so much love and respect for our teachers, and how do we ask them to do more than what they're already doing? So they have to be experts on every subject that they're teaching, and now we're going to give them another subject to
Yeah.
do. So that was something that we kind of struggled with at first. And in our building, our teachers are the ones who are providing these lessons in their classrooms. So
Okay, so
Colleen and
you're
I
not.
aren't.
Okay.
We aren't. No,
So
we have
you're
been able
almost
to.
teaching them. So it's
Yes.
really sustainability is great. Like, it's not like a teacher has to wait for you to come deliver the lesson. Okay.
Yes. And the more our teachers are teaching it, the more comfortable they are with the material, and the more they are able to just naturally integrate it throughout the day, because they are becoming experts in this just by teaching it. So they are teaching all of the lessons, and so they do have a little bit of that flexibility as to when they are teaching it during the school day, what works for them. And unlike math, where math might be done and over with, and we don't talk about math the rest of the day, social emotional doesn't go away just
It's
because
all
the
day.
lesson is done. So they can pull from that. And if we're doing a lesson on checking in with our thoughts, and is it positive, is it negative, the teachers can use that. So when we go into ELA, we can, even before we start the lesson, check in with your thoughts. What thoughts are you having about this activity?
Oh,
So
gosh.
we
Love
can
it.
do that proactively, or when we're in the middle of the activity, stop and check in. What are we thinking right now? What are those thoughts we're telling ourselves right now? So that's where that is really integrated throughout the day, because the teachers have these skills and strategies. And it's not that kids are just being sent out for counseling, getting these strategies and going back in the classroom, but it's all being integrated, and everyone is learning it together, and they're doing it together, and it's becoming normalized because it's a teacher who is often their hero, someone they look up to, who's using those strategies throughout the school day right there with them.
Well, and what better person to help you learn how to regulate than the person you're with, the majority of time, right? I love it. It just sounds like, too, the program gives the words to use to the teachers and to the kids. So then there's a common language about what social and emotional learning is. We hear about social and emotional learning all the time, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, what does that really mean?
Yes.
And this really will break it down into those components, so that when a teacher does reference something that she has taught or he has taught his students, we all know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the biggest pieces that I've taken away from watching our teachers teach these lessons. And the way we were able to do it last year was that our teachers taught these 10 lessons in the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
So our students were, right off the bat being provided with instruction on self-awareness and developing that feeling vocabulary, like you said, Shay, so that we have some of this common language that we're using. Kids come in just like they come in with varying reading or math or athletic abilities or musical talents. They come in with varying levels of, emotional awareness and feeling vocabulary. And so this just helps to level the playing field for, students who may have had some of this instruction at home or may have not, or, may have had it at a different school. It provides that kind of level playing field for everybody to then build upon. And then when a teacher is referencing one of the skills or doing a check-in, like Erika said, we all know what we're talking about and know the steps to do that, and then can be working on that together as a classroom community.
Yeah. Well, and what it's making me think of, too, is that this is for everybody. It's not like this is just for a certain type of child or a child who has experienced a certain situation. I mean, this is universal. This is tier 1.
Yes.
This can help every single one of us, which is so great. And the other thing I'm thinking of too is that as adults and as practitioners, oh my gosh, especially educators, I mean, like the rate of burnout and the difficulty with being in a profession that has so many demands, you're wanting to find time to take care of yourself too, right? And it seems as though as you're teaching students and engaging in these different activities or experiences, you're giving your own body time to have that sense of calm or like noticing what's happening or being more aware and working through these coping strategies. So you get that too as an adult.
That's a really good point. And we've had so many of our staff members who have said, that they go home and they use these skills either themselves or they're teaching their own children. I know we have both used many of these skills and this language with our own children at home. And it really is. And it will say it throughout the lessons. These skills are for everyone. These are for adults. These are for children. These are for, all staff, all, roles and responsibilities that anybody has in a school or in the setting. Doesn't matter. It's for everyone. Yep.
So in 10 weeks, I imagine it'd be great to start off the school year or start off, let's say you're a clinician in private practice, you're running a group with, students and you say, oh, I'm going to, use this program for 10 weeks. But I would imagine like you could repeat this. You can repeat these lessons and activities. You could do this again, I don't know, after winter break, or if you don't have a chance to start it at the beginning of the school year, it doesn't really matter. You could just kind of start at any time.
Absolutely. And I think you gave a great example there coming back from that winter break. We often see a lot of regression at that time period with our students. So it is a great kind of reset, right? You have a new year, new beginning, a fresh start. So that's a perfect time to be able to either start it or dive back in and review some of those skills and strategies. So there's always those opportunities for review and practice.
Yeah. How have your educators or your other school professionals responded?
The staff in our building they're truly amazing people, and they have really taken this and almost made it better than what we even expected. It's been amazing the way they have taken it and applied it in a different way or done something a little differently or the way they've integrated it. So I've been blown away at their response to it. I've even heard some teachers say, I don't know how to teach without this. This is just language that I now integrate throughout my day. I also think we need to not be experts our first year of implementing this. And it's going to take years before we really have that language. And so we have a lot of language in the guidebooks to support staff, but it's not expected to be done year one, the first time that you're doing it, that you're an expert in this. So it's everyone kind of learning it together, having patience with yourself. And then I do think over years, it'll become even more naturally integrated.
It really became this wonderful, we have a wonderful community of educators, as Erika said. This is my very favorite thing to talk about because how wonderful our staff is. But the feedback in terms of even in a first year implementation, as Erika said, it's never going to be perfect. Finding the time is one of the biggest barriers. But for some of our teachers who really pushed through and made the time, for example, in our example, it was the beginning of the school year, but whenever you decide to start, to really make the time and do the lessons and do the follow-up activities, the feedback has been so positive in terms of the amount of academic time that these teachers have gotten back. So instead of saying, I don't have time for social emotional learning because I need to get through my reading, I need to get through my math, they've invested the time on the front end and been able to, get so much more academic time back because their classes are more settled. They transition easier. They have the language to express when they are feeling frustrated and have some coping skills to be able to implement when things aren't going well, or, as a preset prior to engaging in something difficult. So that was one of the greatest takeaways, was to hear teachers talk about how much time they are getting back because their kids are feeling better. They are feeling better. The whole environment is feeling better.
Right. So I'm thinking a lot of states and a lot of schools have mandates to have SEL programs embedded in their curriculum, right? So what if teachers or what if schools already have something? Is this different in any way, or can it be aligned with that? Can it potentially serve as something that would fulfill the requirements for an SEL program?
Great question. I think you could go either direction with this. So you could
Okay.
use this as a standalone program where you really can use this as a program where you're getting those 10 lessons in, and really maybe you're taking even more time to do each lesson. Maybe you're taking 2 weeks to really dive into each lesson.
Oh, okay.
So you really have the flexibility to implement it the way that is most appropriate and effective for your setting. Or if you already have a program in place, you can integrate this along with it. I don't think you're going to find that the skills and strategies you learn in ours are completely different than other social emotional programs, but I do think that ours are a little bit more concrete. We are using another social emotional program in our building also, and we've been able to integrate this with that. And some of our students will even say, oh, now they're using our strategy. They almost consider the courageous choices, the breathing strategies, their
Yeah.
strategies that they learned first, and then they're seeing them used throughout that program too. So I really do think that you can use them together.
Okay. And kind of speaks to, the more tools we have, the better, and take what works for some kids and what doesn't work and pull and, pop them in where they need to be.
Absolutely. And I think some of the other curricula that are out there are meant to be year-long programs, which is great, and you can integrate so many different strategies and skills, but at the same time that may mean that it's taking you till mid-year to get to emotional awareness, for example, or some other skill where we were
Right.
finding kind of the need to get some of those basic strategies down early and quickly.
Yep.
And again, it does not have to be at the beginning of the school year, but for example, ours was, and we were able to teach our students some of these really key skills, body awareness, feeling awareness at the beginning of the year, so that they were set up for any other program that would come along after that.
Right. And then, if you're a first grader and you were introduced to it, and then you go to second grade and that teacher has their second grade variation of the same thing, it's like, oh my gosh, it just builds upon one after the next, which is so great. I love that. So, well, I think it would be great to talk about the program itself. And I'm curious if somebody has access to the program, what does it look like? What do they get? What do they, what is going to be before their eyes for them to utilize?
You get a ton of materials. So we talked about that there's 10 lessons.
Mhm.
And so if you are, for example, a second grade teacher, sure, you might be able to access some of the other grade levels too. But what you will be getting at each grade level, there are 4 posters that we use across all grade levels. So whether you're in kindergarten or in 5th grade, there are these common posters that everyone has. And so you can use this school-wide too. And those 4 posters are really a body scan for an emotional check-in, a scale to identify the intensity of where your body is at that moment,
Okay.
and then a feelings poster, and then a strategies poster. So those 4 are the same regardless of your grade level. And then there's 8 posters for the 8 different strategies. So you'll have access to the 4 main posters and then the 8 strategies. So those are consistent. Our humanities teachers, they even have them up in their classrooms too. So it is integrated throughout our building, and everyone has the general awareness of those main strategies. So those are more of where you could set up your classroom. You could have a bulletin board that you can set up ahead of time with these common posters there, where teachers are referring to them throughout the day. Like, where am I on the scale right now? Or let's check in and do that body scan. So that's that integration piece, is that you have that available to put that up in your classroom. And then when you dive into the lessons, you will have 10 different PowerPoint lessons. So you can pull those up, and there's presenter notes for all of that. And so there's a lesson for every strategy. So a whole lesson breathing, a whole lesson on counting. So those are all right there for you to access. You'll also get a guidebook, a facilitator guidebook, and that will give you kind of the ins and outs, a little bit of an introduction for every lesson. And then all those presenter notes are also right in that guidebook. So you can have that right with you, that you can refer to during the lesson or to prepare ahead of time. In addition to that, after every lesson, students have a follow-up worksheet that they can do. So
great.
after the breathing lesson, in all of our lessons, there are options. So when we're teaching students how to breathe, it's not take a deep breath, but we offer multiple ways to take that deep breath. And we're asking kids to be curious, which one was the most effective for you? What worked best for you? And so typically that follow-up worksheet is for them to have the opportunity to kind of individualize it for themselves. And so they're able to, for example, identify the color that they would imagine breathing in to calm the body, and what color would they exhale. And so that's going on that individualized worksheet that they can then keep. Our teachers have even compiled those 10 worksheets together into a strategies folder. So all of our students even have that strategies folder that they can access throughout the school day. And then in addition to that, we have even created a Calm Corner visual if teachers would like to be able to set up an area in their classroom for students to be able to take breaks. We have a visual for every grade level. So there's a certain strategy for breathing taught at every grade level that will go up right in your Calm Corner. Same thing with the other strategies too. So you can put that up ahead of time. You could put up those as you learn them throughout the year. So that's another piece of it too.
So there's 8 core strategies, but for each one of those 8 core strategies, there are variations depending upon the age.
Yes.
So there's so many strategies, because you could, oh, wow, okay, that makes sense. What's one of the favorite strategies? Do you ever get feedback about what kids seem to like, or do younger kids like something different than the older kids?
I have found that I find the kids really like to individualize their strategies. So it's not necessarily, at least from my perspective, about the strategy itself, but it's about the taking ownership of it and, individualizing their own 5-point scale, their individual color variations in their scales, or being able to, as Erika said, identify the calm color that they're breathing in and the stressful color that they're exhaling. So really to take some ownership over that, and not just this is the prescribed strategy, but how do I make this work for myself and my body to help me feel the best that I can be.
Right. And amazing what they come up with. Like, oh my gosh, I remember doing like progressive relaxation with a younger child, and now I have it in one of our tools, but it was like, oh, so it's like spaghetti, wiggly, and then it's like meatballs, real tight, so it's like, oh, now it's like not just are we doing progressive muscle relaxation. Hey, can we do the meatballs and spaghetti activity? It's so fun. I love that.
But those are the things that make meaning from it for kids, right? When they are able to use their own brilliant little ideas to make it, tangible for themselves.
Right.
And same thing with teachers. We've found our teachers that have been able to, use a little specialized language for their classroom community. And those are the things that kids remember and that really stick, and to help to, build that sense of belonging and to really help with that integration as well. Our teachers and our kids are just so creative in that way.
Do you have a standout story of a teacher that has done something that you just think is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they were able to kind of expand on what we gave them? And
we have several teachers that I could go on and on about. One thing that I absolutely love, when one of our teachers might be having questions about the curriculum or how to integrate or how to generalize the skills, we actually have one of our classroom teachers who we've kind of identified as kind of the expert in the classroom. So when we do have new teachers come on, she's often the person who might go model a lesson instead of me and Colleen, because it's a teacher helping a teacher. And how do you integrate that in the classroom? Colleen and I don't have a classroom that we're running all day long. And so in some ways, teachers have become more of the experts on the integration, more so than us. So teachers helping each other has been wonderful. We have one teacher who really has really integrated it throughout her school day. And she noticed during the transitions is when we have a focus series in all of our lessons, and she'll use that focus series before kids go to lunch. And so she was giving a lot of reminders. This is what we have to do, and we have to do this, and giving a lot of verbal feedback. And then she was finding that just taking the time to pull out the focus series just calmed students. They were much more regulated. They quietly lined up. They went to the cafeteria. So little things like that really make a difference. And also just pulling those strategies in. We often hear teachers saying in the hallways, let's keep our hands to ourselves. Let's not touch other people. Don't touch things on the wall. But what we're doing in this program is we're giving students, what strategy can you use instead? What do you notice is happening in your body right now? You need to do something right now. Do you want to do finger trace right now while we're walking? Do you want to do push and pull while we're walking? So you're giving kids permission to recognize what's going on and giving their body what's needed in a socially appropriate way.
So not just focusing on what not to do,
Yes.
but focusing on what's happening in your body and what might your body need. And here's the strategy. So I love that because you do use, your hallway voices and keep your hands to yourself. And instead you can spin that and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do finger tracing while we walk down to wherever we're going.
One of my favorite integration examples is we have a lunch and a recess monitor who really took this program, and she wanted all of the posters in the cafeteria, and she wanted all of her lunch and recess monitors to have the visuals of different things that students can do in the hallway while they're transitioning back and forth. And I see her, and I mean, when you think about an elementary school cafeteria, lots of kids, lots of noise, lots of activity, it's very overstimulating, but there she is, just calmly pointing, not using a lot of language, reminding students of their options of different things they can do, reminding them how to have a calm and quiet body by doing some of these strategies to prepare them for the next thing that they're coming to in their day. Again, not because that's what we do for compliance, but because this is what's going to help your body get ready for the next part of your day.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is amazing. So I have to tell you, I just had a complete moment with this. So forever, when people ask me about Courageous Choices or ask me about the programs that you have put together, I have told them that it's a perfect magnifying glass into the step 4 of our 10 steps to create a trauma-informed school, or our 10 steps to create a trauma-informed early childhood care. And I feel like I was wrong. Every single part of Courageous Choices hits every single step in the 10 steps, because it focuses on resilience. It takes into consideration what's happening in the body related to the nervous system, so stress, trauma, whatever it might be. You're building connection because the teachers are teaching and practicing the lessons. Kids, I'm sure, are showing each other how to do these lessons. Of course, the social emotional piece is the most obvious one, and that's probably why I just ran with that. But for safety, the structure that it provides and the expectation, it's keeping expectations really high, but it's providing children with the supports that they need to meet that expectation. And that consistency and predictability is such an important piece of what we teach. And that moves right on into the importance of just having fun and playing and moving. And it's all of that with the focus series and with different strategies that are allowing you to move your body and, the coloring worksheets. And then, our step 7 is all about not being punitive and rethinking discipline in a way that says we need to teach. We need to not get upset with kids when things happen. We need to assume that there's something going on that's driving that reaction, and what might they need in place of that. And then I just kept going. It's like step 8 is collaborating with community, collaborating with parents and families, and this is something that crosses those lines. And then step 9 is our support for staff, right? Taking care of ourselves, which feeds into that. So, I mean, it just covers it all. It's like, oh my goodness, which is so fantastic. And I just think a nice way for us to talk about, when we teach, it's always so important for us to teach not just the theory, but to teach practical application and tools that you can use to support the theory. It's always like, okay, I know what's happening now, but what do I do about it? And this is just such a great tool and resource to say, this is again what you can do about it. You can hit all these steps when you do one of these lessons.
And I think to back up to one of the original questions that we were talking about was, where did all of this come from? It came from exactly that, and becoming trauma informed and really working to want to do the best by our kids with regard to the 10 steps. But how do we do that? And what's the practical application of that? And how do we do that on a small scale, a little bit of a larger scale, a whole building scale? And that really is a large part of where this idea came from. So I love your moment. That was
Yeah,
I was watching it happen.
It was in a moment. Well, and I'm just so grateful to have people like you. And what we always say at STAR is we continue to learn from the practitioners and the adults that we train. Because what we do is we give them some foundational information and tools and resources. And then from there, they take it to that next level, right? They take it and they make it their own. And like you now created this wonderful resource and program. And really, to kind of go back to where Courageous Choices started, you started it to implement in your school. But because it works so well, we want to share it, and that really is our mission is to share as much as we can with other adults. Our theory of change is the more trauma-informed, resilience-focused adults we have working in trauma-informed and resilience-focused systems, right, that well-being of all kids will grow and increase. And, with the mental health emergency with children and adolescents right now, coupled with the shortage of licensed mental health practitioners, like we need things like this that any adult can use with kids, right? And this just is such a great example of something that anybody could pick up and utilize with kids individually, in groups, across ages, across settings. So I really think that it's just a great resource and tool to help improve kids' access to the tools and the support that they need, and to help adults know how to interact and deliver that in a way that's really makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our staff, the level of staff knowledge has increased so significantly
I bet.
since it's just incredible. You hear the language that staff are using to talk about kids, and even, your most challenging kid on the most challenging day with the most challenging circumstances, and they're talking about being curious about a child's behavior, or, what might be going on, and how can we support instead of how can we punish or discipline or consequences. We're talking about how to support kids just in a different way, or to another level than we ever have. And it's making a huge impact. And then that's the way our teachers or staff are talking to parents about kids. And maybe then parents are taking that language, and you can just see the ripple effect touching so many different areas.